Hello and welcome to whatever this is, where I finally think there's enough characters to put the pieces together and determine what exactly causes someone to get a Dendro vision. Now, in the almost 2 years since I ranted about what I thought the other element requirements were, we've learned a little bit more about visions. Mainly that, instead of personality, it's a single strong desire that gets acknowledged. And luckily, that doesn't necessarily destroy everything I said, so we're good to keep going. Don't need to build a new foundation. If you want to watch that video, you can, but I warn you that I was not good at speaking, nor was I good at pronouncing the characters' names. So, like, in all of them, Lisa was Liza, everything was just wrong. I still panic about that. But let's focus on what we're actually here for. Dendro. I believe that the desire that leads people to getting a Dendro vision is the desire to help. Now, real quick, let's get the obvious out of the way. I'm aware that it has nothing to do with wisdom, but I feel like this actually fits Nahida very well. One of her voice lines when you put her in the party is her asking you if you need help thinking about something, and pretty much every time she shows up on screen, she's looking to help someone. It's also important to remember that the Academy and Sumeru are centered around what Greater Lord Ukudavada wanted. And while Nahida is an offshoot of her, Nahida is ultimately her own person. So, while wisdom is still the divine ideal, that doesn't seem to be where the vision's coming from. But why helping and not something else? Well, let's figure that out. Let's look at the characters. First, Tighnari. Besides sass and social awkwardness, this man is known to be very helpful. He wants to help the forest, he wants to help people who are sick, and the moment he got his vision was when he decided to step out of his shell and help. See, Tighnari got his vision when he was still in the academy. While at a lecture, he realized that the presenter was making a lot of mistakes, but no one else was pointing it out. He then sat there for a few minutes and got in an endless loop of should-Is in his head before finally raising his hand and pointing out what he noticed because he was worried that his silence now would cause misinformation to spread. The intervention went well and actually caused a great discussion. Then, when it was all over, Tighnari stood up and the vision that had appeared fell to the floor. Admittedly, there's a lot of different emotions going on in this scene. He pushed himself, he valued knowledge, he spoke up, and he tried to help in a situation as best he could. So why am I focusing in on the latter? Well, that's because of the other characters. Yaoyao and Collei's vision both appeared at a moment that has nothing to do with learning. Collei was awarded her vision when she went to go find and subsequently defend a missing girl in the woods. Yaoyao, meanwhile, it's not actually said when exactly she got her vision. Instead, the vision section for her character profile has her reflecting on the fact that she was given one and doesn't know why. She believes that it's because she's training with the Adepti, which could be true, but the important thing, at least in my opinion, is that she decides she wants to be like her master and protect people and extend universal love to all people. And if that's not enough evidence, we still have 2 more people to look at. One of which being Mr. Alhaitham. He may not seem like the warmest of individuals, what with the sarcasm, the introverted nature that rivals my own, and the fact that he literally made an MP3 player to just ignore people. But he's a good guy. Really. And he got his vision while reading a book. None of which really sounds like convincing evidence for my point, but I promise it all comes together. See, there are 2 key elements that are mentioned during the time he got his vision. 1, that the book he was reading was focused on language and its importance over people, and 2, that he was working on a project. What that project isn't exactly specified, but the only real project we know about is the one he worked on with Va before the 2 got into a huge fight and broke up. The project in its first phase was enough to help Sumeru set up so much housing that they offered the pair a house and a lot of money. So while we don't have the full details, it sounds like the overall plan was a big deal focused on helping people. As for the comment on language, we see that it's really important to Alhaitham. It not only appears in his character profile, but also makes mention of this idea in his character quest. When he does, he seems to center around the idea of how important it is to keep the power of words in mind and to use it to stay out of trouble. And while this may not seem like it connects to helping people, the last part of Alhaitham's character quest highlights why it's important to pick your words carefully and to use them to the best of your ability. To put it in his own words,
"A few words were enough. Believe in the power of words."
He may not be jumping around saving drowning people and offering them lotus chips, but Alhaitham is definitely looking to help people and society as a whole. And finally, we're going to look at Rana, the girl from the Aranara quest. And yes, I'm aware that I'm not looking at Baizhu. He may have a Dendro vision, but I'm still convinced that there's some weird, complicated stuff going on with his character, since he has a talking snake that is connected to the legend of the White Snake, where the character who represents Baizhu dies and then becomes immortal. So yeah, I'm not touching that here. God knows you'll drop the fact that he's immortal and actually used to, like, raise Zhongli or something. But we do know Rena. And better yet, we saw the moment she got her vision, so perfect evidence. See, once Rana realized that Arana had sacrificed their memories to save her, she decided that she was going to help Arana gain new memories. As soon as she decided on that, and to go on this great adventure, she gets her Dendro vision. It's this moment where, not necessarily sacrifice, but where she puts the needs of someone else above her own, and decides to help them. So, yeah. When we compare each vision section that the characters have, the common element between each of them is the character attempting to help someone. But this leaves us with dealing with the other vision stories that seem to center around or have a focus on helping. After all, I previously stated that Electro came from a desire to protect, and we literally read about Barbara staying up all night with a sick kid. How does that not fall into helping? Obviously, I'm not going to be breaking down each character, I just don't have the energy nor the time for that, but I'll look over the two things I mentioned and hopefully that'll be enough. With both Electrovisions and other playable characters such as Barbara, the difference seems to be the motivation of the desire. When Razor got his vision, he's not trying to help a random group of wolves, he's trying to save his Lupical from being hurt. Fischl's vision was given to her not because she wanted to take on the persona of the procession to help others, but because she wanted to protect her mind from shattering due to the isolation that she was experiencing. Now, Barbara's vision story did have me hesitating on this, because honestly her story parallels Collei's, only she doesn't run off on her own into a forest and fight monsters. But I think the key line to focus on is she had just joined the church. This was one of Barbara's first days, and nothing she was doing was working to help the boy. We see the other nuns giving her suggestion on what to do, and all of that must have been in her head as she started to sing to the poor boy. If this incident happened a few months later, I wouldn't be surprised to have a Dendro Barbara running around with little, like, flowers instead of water music notes. But as it is, her position as a new recruit and her inability to help managed to shift things ever so slightly and made her desire to prove that she could help, to prove herself even stronger. And I think that tiny nuance will probably be found in a lot of character vision stories when we dig into them. After all, be it because of a person's personality or their desires, the moment that triggers a person receiving a vision is complicated, because people are complicated. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try and understand them. And I think that's as good a place as any to wrap this up. Let me know if you have any other thoughts on what causes people to get Dendro visions, or, I don't know, anything else that just happens to be on your mind. It's a comment section. I can't stop you from writing on it. I can delete it, but, you know, I can't stop you from writing it. Thank you for watching or doing whatever it is you did to hear me say this. Have a great day, stay safe, and goodbye.